the case against Tish James was dismissed and the case against Mr. Comey was dismissed. I completely don't get how it is that you're sitting at the top of DOJ because you don't seem to be good at your job. You're spending more taxpayer resources arresting these journalists. In fact, we know after Georgia Fort and Don Lemon were arrested, we know that there were homes of journalists that were raided. We know that threatened prosecution against students protesting your actions and forced tech companies to remove apps used to track ISIS activities. But let's circle back to you protecting pedophiles and creeps, because I want to talk about the president and his possible involvement with Jeffrey Epstein.
This hearing went completely off script. What started as routine questioning turned into a direct confrontation that exposed deeper tensions about power, accountability, and the justice system. And the response only escalated it further.
Objection. The gentlelady from Texas is recognized.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. And to be clear, I'm not going to ask any questions of this witness because this witness has revealed that she has no intentions of answering questions. But instead, I'm going to ask some very basic questions really quickly of my colleague, Becca Ballant, if she will answer right or wrong, raping children.
Wrong.
Right or wrong, killing random citizens.
Definitely wrong.
Right or wrong, enriching yourself as the sitting president of the United States.
Definitely wrong.
Okay, thank you, because I probably never would have got that with our witness. Our witness who somehow is a lawyer but does not understand how it works with witnesses. I'm not really sure what law school she went to and what all kind of cases she tried, but typically when you come into a space and somebody's a witness, then they sit there and they answer questions instead of asking questions. And then we also have this objection that we use as lawyers called non-responsive when a witness fails to actually answer the question. But nevertheless, let me address the survivors, because that's exactly who they are. They are not victims, they are survivors. Let me say thank you for having more courage and moral clarity in your pinky fingers than the entire Department of Justice. We are currently the laughing stock of the world, partially because of the failed leadership within the DOJ, as we see kings and queens falling everywhere around the world. But we don't know the basics of right and wrong in this country, because it's not about partisanship. And that's why I applaud Thomas Massie, because he's the only person on the Republican side that has a backbone and knows how to stand up to corruption. But nevertheless, let me keep going. My Democratic colleagues have been attacked this entire committee hearing. They have been lied on, and frankly, the American people weren't looking for that. They were looking for answers about the corruption that they see coming from this administration. In the written testimony of this witness, of this particular witness, she stated that when she took office, she had two main goals. The first was to end the weaponization of justice, and second, to return the department to its core mission. Not only have you lied about both, you've intentionally done the exact opposite. You're spending more taxpayer resources arresting journalists than you are prosecuting pedophiles and creeps. In fact, your boss, the President of the United States, stated that this administration, quote, took the freedom of speech away. And at your direction, DOJ has arrested Don Lemon and Georgia Fort. And I might add that y'all actually had a judge that rejected y'all for trying to arrest Don Lemon before, just like the grand jury rejected y'all as it relates to Senator Kelly, just like a grand jury rejected y'all as it relates to Senator Slotkin, just like the case against Tish James was dismissed and the case against Mr. Comey was dismissed. I completely don't get how it is that you're sitting at the top of DOJ because you don't seem to be good at your job. You're spending more taxpayer resources arresting these journalists. In fact, we know after Georgia Fort and Don Lemon were arrested, we know that there were homes of journalists that were raided. We know that threatened prosecution against students protesting your actions and forced tech companies to remove apps used to track ISIS activities. But let's circle back to you protecting pedophiles and creeps, because I want to talk about the president and his possible involvement with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, I don't know what the president might have done with Jeffrey Epstein, but unlike this administration, I believe that facts matter. So let's talk about the facts. Fact number one, Donald Trump is one of the most named people in the Epstein files. At least 5,000 files contains more than 38,000 references to Trump, his wife, or Mar-a-Lago. Fact number two, Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell made young girls available to Trump on multiple occasions. For example, according to this file, Ghislaine Maxwell presented a young girl to President Trump who spent more than 20 minutes apparently flirting with her. Here's another example. This shows notes from FBI investigators that describe Jeffrey Epstein transporting a victim to Mar-a-Lago to meet with President Trump, where he bragged to Trump that, quote, this is a good one. Now, I'm not saying that the president is a pedophile, but there is a lot of evidence in these files that suggests that he's very close friends with a lot of men who are pedophiles. What's crazy about all of this is just that this is a big cover-up, and this administration is engaged in it. In fact, this administration is complicit. But there are numerous others, like how the DOJ is attempting to obstruct justice in the investigation of the rogue agents who have murdered American citizens, or how the DOJ seized voter data from Fulton County in an attempt to steal the 2026 midterm elections, or how federal agents have Tom Homan on tape accepting a bribe and your agency killed the investigation, or how your agency is ready to give the president a $230 million payday, which is unconstitutional. The Constitution is clear. The president shall not receive any payment except his salary while in office. The fact of the matter is that you will be remembered as one of the worst attorney generals in history. An attorney general who has prioritized obstruction over justice, corruption over the law, fealty to the president over loyalty to the Constitution. And Mr. Chairman, I will yield.
Gentlelady yields. Gentleman from Missouri is recognized. Excuse me, gentleman from Kansas, the Attorney General, former Attorney General, Mr. Schmidt is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and General Bondi, thanks for being here. Did you have anything you wanted to say before we talk?
I do. Thank you, Congressman. Thank you, my friend, for many years. I find it interesting that she didn't even want to try, Congresswoman Crockett, to ask any questions, because she certainly did not condemn her leader, Hakeem Jeffries, for taking money from Jeffrey Epstein after Epstein was convicted. And I will be brief to give you your time, Congressman. This is what she didn't want to talk about. Texas, from Cuba, convicted, homicide, arson, weapon offense.
Convicted.
You know
So what we
Estrada,
talking about? Convict
Texas,
some of these
convicted,
perpetrators that
homicide.
rape these women that are sitting
Time
behind you,
belongs
that
to
you
the
refuse
gentleman
to even
from
acknowledge
Kansas.
they are here.
Time belongs to the
Texas.
gentleman from Kansas.
Mr. Chairman, could I have a few seconds
You
back
bet,
to make
you
up
bet.
for the yelling? Thank you. General, did you have anything further to say?
Texas, convicted of homicide, Cecil Joseph from Dominican Republic. Texas, convicted for kidnapping, rape, Khalid Khan from Afghanistan. That's why they want to talk about Epstein and not what's happening in their own states.
What unfolded in that hearing wasn't simply another heated exchange on Capitol Hill. It was a revealing look at how modern political messaging, institutional accountability, and public perception collide in real time. Representative Jasmine Crockett made a deliberate strategic choice at the outset. She declined to question the witness directly and instead reframed the hearing around moral clarity and credibility. That move mattered, because congressional hearings are not only about gathering facts, they are also platforms where lawmakers shape narratives, define stakes, and signal values to the public. By asking simple moral questions of a colleague, Crockett created contrast. The tactic forced attention onto what she framed as the witness's unwillingness to engage substantively. Whether one agrees with her approach or not, this reflects a broader evolution in congressional communication. Lawmakers increasingly use hearings not just to extract information, but to establish emotional and ethical context that resonates beyond the room. In the digital era, clips travel further than transcripts, and clarity, or perceived clarity, becomes a powerful political tool. Her remarks toward survivors and her emphasis on language, specifically calling them survivors rather than victims, also highlight a shift in public discourse around trauma and justice. Over the past decade, advocacy communities and policymakers alike have leaned toward terminology that centers resilience and agency. Moments like this demonstrate how cultural language changes are reflected in government proceedings, influencing how institutions communicate about harm, accountability, and dignity. Crockett then pivoted toward broader criticism of Department of Justice priorities, raising allegations about press freedom, prosecutions, and institutional direction. Regardless of political alignment, this portion underscores a central democratic tension, the balance between law enforcement authority and civil liberties. Governments possess immense investigative power, and history shows that societies continuously debate how to ensure those powers are applied fairly and transparently. Hearings like this become arenas where those competing concerns are aired publicly, allowing Americans to evaluate not only policies, but also leadership philosophies. When she invoked references to high-profile associations and controversies, she demonstrated another common oversight function, connecting individual leadership decisions to wider questions of integrity and influence. Congressional oversight exists precisely because the executive branch wields significant authority, and lawmakers are tasked with scrutinizing potential conflicts, relationships, and actions that could affect public trust. The intensity of such exchanges often reflects the seriousness with which both sides perceive the stakes, not merely personal disagreement. Bondi's response, in turn, illustrated a contrasting communication strategy, redirecting focus toward other political figures, criminal cases, and alternative priorities. This is a classic rhetorical pivot seen frequently in adversarial hearings, shifting the narrative from the accusations at hand toward comparative critique. For Americans watching, this moment provides insight into how political argumentation often unfolds, not as linear debate, but as competing attempts to define what the conversation itself should be about. Ultimately, what viewers witnessed was not just confrontation, but an example of democratic friction. Oversight hearings are designed to be uncomfortable spaces where power is questioned publicly. They reveal differences in interpretation, priorities, and ideology that shape national governance. Understanding these dynamics helps Americans move beyond viral moments and grasp the structural purpose behind them, testing authority, signaling policy direction, and giving the public visibility into how leaders defend their positions under scrutiny. If you found this breakdown valuable and want deeper context that helps make sense of moments like this, stay engaged with Democratic Lens. Like the video, share your perspective in the comments, and subscribe so you don't miss future analysis that goes beyond the headlines and helps connect the dots shaping the national conversation.